Good evening, everybody. This is April 8th. This is First Alert Plus. This is April 15th. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here. We're talking about quite a bit of more active weather that will be headed our way, unfortunately, including another bout of strong storms that will be possible for the day on Saturday. So let's break it down for you right now. Of course, severe weather is expected Saturday. We'll give you a rundown of what we can expect there, and then things will be looking a little bit better later on, including a warm-up that will be set to move on in as we head into the latter portions of your week. So things won't be looking too bad to end this week, but of course as we head into Saturday, the First Alert Weather Day will be in place. Meanwhile, we will be talking about, of course, your Easter forecast. That's another thing we want to talk about and want to discuss, as that's going to be an important day for a lot of people to be off and about and enjoying the weather. Hopefully there will be some weather to enjoy. Hopefully not going to be the case where we will have to deal with, of course, some bad weather. We'll get you all the details on that coming up. Let's get right into it. Of course, there's our severe weather risk for the day Saturday. That First Alert Weather Day is in place because of that. The Storm Prediction Center putting out a level 2 of 5 slight risk of severe weather already for the day on Saturday within that yellow area. That includes a lot of southwestern West Virginia, far southern Ohio, and of course a lot of eastern Kentucky. Now, the good news is the ingredients aren't looking quite as robust as they were looking on Monday. That could certainly change, but as what we're seeing now, things don't look quite as impressive in terms of the ingredients needed to produce large hail or gusty winds. Don't think there's going to be a huge tornado threat with this either. Let's track it. Area of low pressure will form thanks to this jet stream coming out of here. Again, this disturbance right in here is what we're going to be watching for the day on Saturday, that little yellow. The wind will be kind of diverging out of there, so we are expecting an area of low pressure to form and a front to stall out in that general area where it is circled. And when you get that low pressure to form, where you get that front to stall out, that could mean trouble. Another thing we have to talk about too, those winds are going to be strong. You notice that yellow bullseye in that circled area. You're talking about roaring winds higher up aloft, and when you get those roaring winds, that can help thunderstorms really organize, come together, and develop quite a bit of activity over the region, including some large hail and gusty winds. Any storm that produces in that environment can certainly push down the stronger winds that are high up in the sky into the Earth's surface. That was the European model. This is a look at the American model, again showing pretty much the same thing, a little bit further to the west and north, but kind of the same general idea where you have that yellow bullseye right in here, those roaring winds, that area of low pressure that will be likely to form, and of course the possibility of some stronger storms within that area. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. Another thing we like to look at for strong to severe storms is the winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere, talking about the lowest kilometer here. And we're certainly going to have strong winds doing that as well. Here's an image of Saturday evening. You'll notice these deeper blues right in here. That could help storms kind of garner some energy, get them maybe moving. The updrafts moving, kind of rotating. We call those supercells. Just because an updraft of a storm is rotating doesn't mean you're going to see a tornado. In fact, almost all the storms that popped up yesterday were producing rotating updrafts, yet we did not see a single tornado. So just because, again, a storm is rotating doesn't mean it will produce a tornado. But the rotating storms likely typically produce hail. And when you get winds that strong in the lowest kilometer, you could definitely see a storm or two begin to rotate. That's something we really need to keep a close eye on going into Saturday. Let's talk about it on the European model right here. Again, showing kind of the same deal where you have those stronger winds a little bit higher up in the sky in the lowest kilometer. And this is even showing some slightly stronger winds here in much of Ohio. It's again something we really need to keep a close eye on, because when you get those storms to rotate, typically rotating storms produce severe weather. Whether it be a tornado, whether it be hail, or even gusty winds, that all remains a possibility. I don't think the tornado threat is going to be exceptionally high, though, so there's some good news for you in terms of that. So let's track it. Let's get you that precipitation on here on this map to give you an idea of what we could be seeing. This is the American model, rather this is the European model. Showing you that there is going to be some widespread rain further to the north. This is going to be a common theme. When you get these stalled out fronts, a lot of the moisture that comes in this case from the Gulf, is going to be lifted up and over that front. And so we see that widespread rain developed along and north of that front here. The area we need to watch is just to the south of that front, which will be located, in this case, in southern Ohio, where all that thunderstorm energy is going to be built up here. Again, in southern Ohio, maybe into eastern Kentucky, right in here. Just to the south of that front, any storm that forms just along and north of that front could kind of wobble just to the south of that front, gather up all the energy that's kind of built up just to the south of that front, and produce that severe weather that we really need to keep an eye on. So that's kind of what we are really watching out for areas like Portsmouth, for areas like Vanceburg, Jackson, Ohio, for instance. Although anywhere, again, within that risk area I was showing you earlier, in that yellow area, which includes all of eastern Kentucky, that far southern tip of Ohio, and southwestern West Virginia, has that possibility of seeing those strong to severe storms. Let's move this forward. Let's go to the European model, or rather the American model, showing the same thing. Again, that front is stalled out to the north, right up here. You get the widespread rain in this zone into southern Ohio. This is non-severe weather. Just to the south of the front in this zone is where you need to watch for the potential of that strong weather. And of course, the track of that front still up in the air. Could wobble to the north, could wobble to the south. All depends on what the data sees in the coming days. And we'll keep you updated on the latest info, what you need to know. Right now, compared to earlier on today, it looks like that front has a slid up to the north just a little bit. So you'd be talking about mainly a southern Ohio severe weather threat. Earlier today, that front looked to be near I-64, so that severe weather threat was going to be just to the south of I-64. But again, anything could change in the coming days, and we'll keep you updated as to how far north or south that front will get. Now let's head over to the computer, give you more in-depth analysis to what exactly we could be seeing with this event. I always like to show some technical things here on First Alert Plus to give you an idea. Let's go right to, of course, thunderstorm energy. That's a very important thing we watch out for in events like this. So going to the computer, we'll pull that up for you. This is our model site. This is the raw data we typically look at. This grayer area, this blue area, is where we're really keeping a close eye on right here. That's where that thunderstorm energy, or what we call convective available potential energy, is going to reside, where you're going to see the majority of that activity kind of ramping up. Again, this is a little bit further to the north compared to where we were earlier on this morning. That's a look at the American model. Going to the European model, showing a bit more robust energy right in here, especially in this blue bullseye here near Athens County, near Vinton County, Meigs County, for instance. That's something we're going to have to watch out for. Again, where you see that blue, you're talking about energy measured in joules per kilogram, about 1,000 or more. When you get joules per kilogram of 1,000 per more, that's significant for the potential of strong to severe storms. Hail is really an interesting thing to forecast here. And what we tend to look for in our vertical profiles is temperatures decreasing at a certain rate between this level of the atmosphere right here, that little 700, and this little 500 right here. That's usually between 3 and 6 kilometers above the Earth's surface. When you see temperatures decreasing at a rate of around 7 or more, that's where you could see hail sizes reaching quarters or larger. Yesterday, those were decreasing at around 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Quite a bit of extreme conditions in place yesterday, which is why we saw reports of baseball-sized hail over the region. Not going to quite reach that level on Monday, so we're still talking about the potential of strong hail, but nothing to the level of what we saw yesterday. But when you see that 7 there, that's a red flag indicating to us that we could see maybe a little bit of hail. As far as the winds changing in the atmosphere goes, you want to look for very weak change in the winds in the lowest kilometer. Looks like there's actually some pretty decent change in the wind, so that could actually help mitigate that hail threat a little bit as well. And I know we're talking a lot about hail. The reason we're doing this is because a lot of people are on edge of what happened yesterday. The point I want to get out is that the hail threat is not going to be nearly as prolific as what we saw during your day Monday with the baseball-size hail. Not going to see anything like that, but I do want to stress quarter-size hail, half-dollar-size hail, And maybe if we get a robust storm, some golf ball size hail could definitely be a possibility. Meanwhile, we're talking about, of course, gusty winds that will be a possibility. You're looking at this decreasing rapidly over here. That's what we call theta E, or equivalent potential temperature, meaning basically how much moisture, how much heat is in the atmosphere. When that decreases with height, that means there's a lot of dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere that can kind of help cool the thunderstorm a lot quicker and push that cool air down a lot faster to develop, of course, some very strong winds in that thunderstorm. In this zone, we want to look for also this D-Cape of around 1,000. It's close enough. It's at 815. So gusty winds to 60, 65 miles an hour could certainly be a possibility. And those are the main two kind of things we are looking out for on Saturday. Again, I ultimately think the tornado threat's going to be low. I can't rule one out, but it's certainly not going to be quite as robust as what we did see for the day on Saturday. So let's get back to our weather graphics here and give you an idea of generally the severe weather risks we could be talking about with this system that will be making its way closer and closer to the area. Let's look at those severe weather risks. Again, we're talking about the potential of some large hail, some gusty winds, and maybe a little bit of flooding as a possibility, though that flooding threat will look to be fairly low over the area. The main threat is going to be the hail and the winds, especially the winds here. And the tornado threat remains very low for now. Of course, that could change in the coming days. We will continue to keep you updated on air, online, as this First Alert Weather Day is, of course, going to be present. I know a lot of people are going to want to know because this is a very important weekend for a lot of us. It's Easter weekend. We got plans with our families. We got plans to be outside and enjoying some family time and enjoying some time with friends. This is going to be, unfortunately, a bad time for this to come in. So once information changes, you will be the first to know by watching WSAZ, having that WSAZ weather app on hand. Let's talk about the hail we saw yesterday. This was a pretty rare event for our region. I'm showing a radar loop here of that storm. You'll notice, of course, that storm coming across. That was the most prolific one. I'll pause it as it reached into the Portsmouth area, right there. Northern Greenup County, we saw this storm impact first in the viewing area. Of course, that's a very rural part of the area up until you get to the Raceland area. And then it crossed the river over toward Franklin Furnace. Joseph Payton did a story out in Franklin Furnace today where you saw a lot of damage to siding, a lot of damage to cars. They certainly got hit hard by this activity yesterday. Let's move it forward, crossed into rural portions of central Lawrence County here. And then we saw the biggest hail report of the day as it reached Athalia, Ohio. This is where we saw the egg-size hail report out in Athalia, right in here. Right along the Lawrence-Gallia County line is where we saw that. And then, of course, it crossed into northern Cabell County, into southern Mason County, and then made a beeline right here into Putnam County, where we saw a lot of reports out of Hurricane, a lot of reports out of the Teays Valley area. When it reached into Kanawha County, did some damage as well. And that storm, again, produced quite a bit of large hail in the Hurricane area. Our anchor Taylor Eaton had a lot of reports out of the Hurricane area of some damage to cars, of some damage to siding. We had a report of egg-size hail in Hurricane. Meanwhile, as it crossed into Kanawha County, we had reports of baseball-size hail. When you get these pinks showing up on the radar, that's certainly a sign where you definitely see that hail pushing on through. This point is where that storm went tornado warned, because it was a rotating storm. We saw strong enough rotation out of the National Weather Service in Charleston for them to issue a tornado warning for Kanawha County, including downtown Charleston. Weakened a little bit as it crossed into Clay County, but then gained more strength as it reached into Nicholas County toward the Summersville area, where it produced even more hail and kind of wrapped up again, caused another tornado warning, and believe it or not, Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Yes, Greenbrier County, into the mountains. Tornadoes can occur in the mountains. That's a common myth with tornadoes. Just because there are mountains there doesn't mean a tornado can touch down. In fact, there was an F4 tornado, which is the second strongest tornado to be recorded, up in the Western Continental Divide at 10,000 feet out in Wyoming. So Don't believe that tornadoes can't occur in the mountains. They definitely can. Now, of course, we didn't see any tornado reports yesterday, thank goodness. I think the atmosphere was just not strong enough in the lower level winds to produce that. But certainly, again, these storms were very strong. They produced some pretty prolific weather. Let's talk about what we saw in Hurricane. Again, this is golf ball size hail. This was submitted to us by a viewer. That did quite a bit of damage. Again, we had lots of reports of hail damage. We saw roofs really damaged here. We saw siding damage, cars all dented up. A lot of people trying to take cover under underpasses, which is never a good idea, by the way, but just a lot of us seeing that hail damage. And if we look at these storm reports here, I want you to notice all those blue icons here in our weather graphics. That's an individual hail report. You could see where those storms really tracked right here along this line, crossing from just south of Portsmouth into central Lawrence County, all the way down into Putnam County, and then eventually Kanawha and Nicholas and Clay counties right in here. That general hail track of where we saw all of that damage. The blue circles indicate the hail damage. The red circles indicate wind damage, and we saw some wind damage from these storms yesterday as well. It was a pretty prolific day of weather, to say the least. Luckily, we didn't have any serious injuries out of this, at least anything reported just yet. Hopefully everyone got away without injuries, but a lot of damage to talk about from that hail. All right, so we're talking about, of course, also some warmer conditions that will be headed on into the area. We'll talk about that in just a second. I do want to give you an idea of just exactly how big hail can get. Now, luckily, we didn't see anything up to the grapefruit or softball size. That would do some serious damage, but definitely destructive baseball size hail is where we saw that. The severe hail limit is at quarter size or larger. Certainly, we saw larger than that. It's pretty rare to see anything like that, especially in our part of the country. Hail typically gets bigger further out to the west, and that's due to what's known as the elevated mixed layer. It's basically the topography of the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains just to the west of it. You get a lot of drier air blowing off the Rocky Mountains, elevating over some cooler, moist air below, and that creates conditions that are perfect for the development of hail out in the Great Plains. So our part of the area doesn't typically see that. We don't see that elevated mixed layer very commonly. We did see that yesterday. It's rare that that happens, but it's certainly a possibility to happen. It's just very rare for our part of the country to see that. So uncommon to see even quarter-size hail in our part of the country. Very rare to see anything like egg-size hail or tennis ball-size hail or even baseball-size hail, which is what some of the storms were producing during the day yesterday. Now let's get into what we could be talking about for, again, the end of this week. Again, we're in a cooler pattern right now. Those temperatures have cooled off back into the 50s and 60s. You see that denoted here by that fence of cooler air setting up over much of the lower Great Lakes here. That's mainly due to this warm air kind of nudging up here into Alaska. We got that push of the cooler air coming down from Canada thanks to that. We also have a bit warmer portion of the North Atlantic here that is kind of squeezing that cool air down from the poles. But watch as we set this map in motion. I'll clear out all the annotations here. I'm going to give you an idea of what is going to happen. A lot of this colder air is going to retreat. And again, that's thanks to Alaska cooling off here. Notice the blue over Alaska. We still have that warmer air in the North Atlantic, but much of the Arctic stays rather cool up here on the cooler side of things. So when you have the cooler air in Alaska, the cooler air in the Arctic, that kind of forces the cold air to be bottled up into the Arctic, and it allows us to see those warmer conditions. You notice down here, we see those oranges and those yellows, indicating, of course, where we see the warmer conditions. Temperatures are going to warm up as we head into the later portions of the week. Let's go into what we can expect on a more local level. Again, you notice those yellows and oranges surging on up and in. Meanwhile, this is our system off to the west. This disturbance is what's going to cause our strong to severe storms on Saturday. That temperature change right there. But for us on Friday, we're looking at pleasant conditions with the warmer air surging up from the tropics and into our area. Going to be very nice, feeling a lot more like May or June in comparison to where we are in mid-April. Let's talk about it. The American model has us at 78 by Friday afternoon here. It's going to feel really nice. Meanwhile, the European model has us a little bit cooler, but overall, We could be talking about temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Actually, the European model has us at 80, and I do think we're going to get to 80 very easily. I think 82 is going to be doable for a lot of us by Friday because of the sunshine and because of the southerly winds. We can thank high pressure pushing itself off to the east for that. So some good news in the longer range pattern as far as what we can be seeing as far as temperatures in the long-term forecast here. Now, precipitation-wise, we could be looking at a little bit of rain, unfortunately, for your day Sunday. This is the European model, I believe. No, this is the American model showing your Easter forecast getting a little wet. I think in the morning especially is going to be the best time for that. European model keeping us a bit drier, but overall I do think your Easter Sunday will feature a little bit of rain. So let's talk about that Easter Sunday forecast. I promised you this at 6 o'clock here on WSAZ. We start the day in the 50s. I think by midday, rain will start to clear out, and by the evening, we see some sunshine peeking through the overcast with 70s returning. Overall, not too bad of an Easter if you're going to be out in the evening. However, during the morning time frame, going to church services on Sunday morning, going to be a little tough for you because we're going to be seeing rain, cooler temperatures to start off your Easter. After, of course, Saturday evening, we see those stronger storms beginning to work on in. This is First Alert Plus. We give you the first alert to everything, give you in-depth weather information every Tuesday, 6:45 p.m. on all of WSAZ's digital platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, our app, and, of course, the Roku app. Anything you can find us on digital, we will be there. We stream this again every Tuesday, 6:45 p.m., and give you the latest on everything you need to know when it comes to weather. Of course, we're going to continue to track that First Alert weather day for you going down the line here. We'll get you the updates as they come in. Looks like it shifted a little bit north for now. That could change in the coming days. Again, we'll get you the updates. And I know a lot of people are wary about the hail situation because of what we saw yesterday. Just note that hail up to tennis ball size, up to baseball size, very rare for our part of the country. And it doesn't look like Saturday's ingredients are going to be quite as strong as what we did see yesterday, so I don't think hail's going to get quite as big. Still, that severe hail threat does exist, so we're going to keep an eye on it. In the meantime, make it a great Tuesday, everybody.